Hello. Good morning in US. Good afternoon in Europe. Let's wait a couple of minutes before we start. And the recording is being and the webinar is being recorded. So if anybody is going to miss the beginning, they will be able to see the recording afterwards. So let's just wait a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes. I would say maybe a minute or two before we start, and then we'll jump straight into it. Okay. We do have quite a lot to cover. So yeah, if anybody is going to join in later, they can just watch the start of the meeting through recording. So today we are going to be talking about AI search and how it affects B2C, especially in focus on omni-channel retail brands. This webinar is useful for any brand, or I would say any company with digital exposure. If you are from any other kind of brand, you're going to still find quite a lot of useful things during this hour. But predominantly, we have been tailoring this for companies that have omnichannel presence and have their own physical stores as well as online presence. So the main purpose of this webinar, in a way, is to clear up some misconceptions about LLM usage in business and AI search, and as well as to provide a roadmap for businesses how to proceed in terms of auditing, understanding their position, and what to overall do as far as AI search is concerned. Because from our experience within Scandiveb, most companies don't really have a full understanding of the impact LLMs have on their business. This webinar is created in order to clear those things up. A small note. So in case we are not going to cover some things that you might be interested to learn, we did have a previous webinar where we discussed more the operational aspect of AI search. So you are welcome to watch that one in your free time as well. Afterwards, the link is going to be provided. Or of course, if you're going to want to learn more, you can always reach out to us, and we will be happy to assist. Before we begin, we would like to start by defining what recommended actually means in AI search, because being visible is not enough. AI search shortlists. So also when people are checking for visibility, they are trying to understand their AI search position. They use different tools. They usually really get hung up on mentions or being included in specific prompts, but that is not really the main purpose of AI search optimization, because when we talk about being recommended, we mean that you are being shortlisted among the small set of options. So usually when you ask for, let's say, best shoe brand, there are going to be 3 to 5 options. That means being shortlisted. It also means being trusted, that AI has enough confidence to present you as a safe choice. And it also means that you are being recommended for specific use cases, sometimes in general, sometimes for specific use cases. But overall, recommended means that AI LLMs have enough trust to recommend you as a brand, because it does not being mentioned does not mean that you are automatically being recommended. One thing I do want to clarify as well is that AI search is becoming the discovery and validation layer. Quite a lot of people would like to treat AI search as just another traffic channel, but kind of maybe a bit controversial, but I would like to more look at it at the moment as a similar shift that was happening when people started using smartphones. I 20 years ago, everybody was just using desktops. And then at some point, smartphones appeared within the market. More people were using mobile, and companies tried to understand how they should adjust their strategies for mobile usage. And now, of course, most of e-commerce and most of web traffic is mobile first. So we like to think about LLM use in a bit of a similar way. Because it fundamentally shifts how people are interacting online. And so overall, what's changing? So from results to recommendations, so users ask AI what to choose, not where to click. So overall, they are already asking for recommendations, and then they see a list of 3 to 5 trusted options. So it's not really similar as in Google search, where you would Google a particular trend, you would go through different links, see what kind of clicks to you, then click and browse. So it's a much more browsing. So whenever you get some results in AI search, they are already curated in a specific form. And discovery, comparison, and validation also happen in one place. So this is another thing that a lot of companies or a lot of people don't fully yet conceptualize, is that it's not just one prompt. So kind of also quite often when we do audits, we focus on particular prompt, but people often forget that it's usually a discussion. So when people are choosing a particular product within AI search, they might start with a particular prompt, but in most cases, they are going to have follow-up questions. They are going to ask to compare different products and validation. So all of those things are happening in one place. And what does this overall mean in practice? So there are fewer touch points before a decision is made. In older times or in traditional search, so somebody would go to Google, let's say, they would find your website, they would find the product, then they would go back to Google, they would look for recommendations, maybe for a comparison. So maybe they would go to Reddit, see what people actually tell about your product. So they would use a lot of different places to gather information. But now all of that is taking place within LLMs themselves. And a big issue for brands is that if you're not really included within the conversation, as we said, usually we see a set of 3 to 5 options, at most maybe 10. So if you're not between one of those 10 options, you're not going to be within the consideration of the users. And ultimately, we do believe in Scandinavia that convenience and efficiency always wins. And whenever we kind of look at major success within IT, and I would say overall, these are where the companies that made something more efficient and more convenient than their predecessor. I would call these maybe like sticky technology. So, for example, if you started using Uber Eats or Bolt or Volt for food delivery, maybe at first you did it a couple of times, but then people found it quite convenient and they started to use it more and more. And I would say similar thing is happening with LLM usage, with chatbot usage, that usually when people start using them, they don't really go back to Google. So we do see that there are shifts between different LLMs. So people might be shifting from ChatGPT to Gemini or Grok or any other, but they don't really go back to Google. So it's kind of maybe not a good comparison, but like cigarettes. Once you start smoking, it's kind of hard to quit. So that's why doesn't matter what's really going to happen with the overall AI sphere. As we look at it, LLMs are here to stay because they just offer much more convenient, quicker, and efficient experience than Google search does. So that's one of the reasons why we do believe that this is a paradigm shift, that they are here to stay, and that most companies do need to pay attention to this sphere. And when we look at the ROI, so a lot of companies are going to say they are going to look at their Google Search Console, for example, and say, hey, but the Google Search is still providing us much more traffic than AI search is providing. And in most cases, it's true that currently the traffic that LLMs provide is relatively small. But they're kind of one comparison. It's not maybe the most exact comparison to use, but I would like to use comparison between Google, between Facebook and LinkedIn. So Facebook ads or Meta ads have much broader audience. But overall, if you see for a lot of industries, for a lot of niches, LinkedIn ads are actually more profitable because it's a smaller place. But those people have usually higher purchasing power. They can be decision makers in B2B commerce, etc. So also when we look at LLM usage, currently the latest statistics is between 900 million and 1 billion people use LLMs on a weekly basis. And I don't know what are these stats about Gemini Pro usage, but for ChatGPT, the latest was that there are 20 plus million paying customers for ChatGPT, which might not seem a lot, but at the same time, these people are quite tech savvy, and statistically speaking, they have quite high purchasing power. So it's also kind of similar as Android versus iPhone. Well, in US, iPhone, of course, has bigger market share, but in Europe, it's kind of often that you have 50-50 between Android and iPhone as a market share. But the ads on iPhone are going to be much more revenue generating because iPhone users statistically have higher purchasing power. So in a similar way, it's kind of a similar way how we approach LLM usage. And the big caveat is that that's for now. We do see that for most of our clients, use of LLMs, it's growing exponentially still. So there might have been some dips in ChatGPT usage globally over the last 3 months, but it was more to do with the fact that people were moving from ChatGPT to Gemini. They were not really moving back to Google. And when we look at the overall LLM traffic, it's still growing exponentially also over the last couple of months. And one of the big things that is quite hard to measure and which is a very important question by a lot of decision makers is how much money you can actually generate by optimizing for AI search. It really does depend on our industry, and I must say for B2B, especially for services, the revenue generating potential is definitely higher than for B2C commerce. But based on our analysis and latest available research, if you become the default answer in AI search and you are the one who are recommended the most, and you also have very good sentiment, it can increase the overall revenue by up to 25%. In order to back some of these claims, so according to the latest research by McKinsey and Company, consumers are already using AI-powered search extensively across the decision journey. So this is not only speculation. This is data that people do actually already use. So to not be confused by the data. So this is a data sample of people who already use LLMs. So kind of to translate that, 73% out of 100, 73 respondents out of 100 who use LLMs are using LLMs to learn broadly about particular categories. And as you see that, for example, in awareness phase, it's actually quite high. So if we would assume that there are approximately 1 billion LLM users globally, and 73% of them use it for awareness, that is 700 million people in some extent using LLMs for product awareness. And as you see overall, as when you go down the chain, so in consideration the decision, so it dips slightly, but overall there is a lot of use throughout the acquisition journey. And so it differs on particular aspects. So this again is data from McKinsey. One interesting thing I found is that for groceries, people do actually use LLMs quite actively. I did not really expect that, but for consumer electronics and appliances, it does make quite a lot of sense, because what we have seen based on our data is that the more complicated a product is, the higher the likelihood that people are going to be relying on LLMs to find out more information. Because let's say you need to buy a new vacuum cleaner, which is not even such a complicated technology. So let's say you bought your last vacuum cleaner 10 years ago, and now you need to buy a new one. I mean, it's going to be really hard for you to make an educated guess of which vacuum cleaner is going to be the best. There are going to be literally 10 different brands, 50 different models, all kinds of different functions. So it would take a lot of time for you to really learn, go through everything to make an educated guess. So within this kind of niche, people are more likely to rely on LLMs to provide them information and suggestions of which one is the best. In older times, people might go to Google, they might review these listicles like top 10 vacuum cleaners of 2026. People are not really doing that anymore. They are outsourcing this task to ChatGPT or Gemini. And as you can see, so overall, the use of LLMs, so for most places, it's not above 50%, but there is considerable amount of people who do use AI-powered search engines in their purchasing journey in every product category analyzed. So where AI impacts decisions. There are overall three main groups which we could highlight in which AI can impact decisions in user journey. The most logical one and the one where people focus most is discovery. This is when people are trying to find out which product to choose. If we go back to the vacuum cleaner, so people might want to know which is the best vacuum cleaner for them, and at the same time, what should they consider when they are buying vacuum cleaner. So, for example, if they have a dog, or do they want air vacuum cleaner, or do they want something fancy? So that's going to be the discovery phase. But people do also use LLMs in comparison phases. So let's say you have found two different models or two different brands, and people do like to compare which one is going to be better. At the same time, which one is going to be better for which use cases. And at the same time, one part on which a lot of companies are not really focusing or not even taking into account is that the validation phase is also extremely important part as far as AI use is concerned. People do want to know, is a particular brand legit? What are the reviews? Can they trust them? So this is kind of information that people use to go to reviews for and Reddit. So people still use Reddit. People still sometimes go to reviews, but it's just much more convenient for you to go to ChatGPT and ask the same information, because it's just going to synthesize the same information from multiple sources in the same place. And quite often we do actually see that this also impacts overall AI search visibility, because in our work, we do actually do surprising amount of work in terms of sentiment improvement. So there are a lot of companies which might be selling good products, and overall they have strong positioning, but they might just have very poor, let's say, poor customer feedback. They might have poor reviews, and this not only limits chances that people are going to purchase their products, but it reduces the chances that LLMs are going to be recommending them. And as far as validation, so there is additional thing that we do like to focus as far as AI search optimization is concerned, and that is brand narrative. People don't only ask AI what to buy, they do ask AI who to trust. And in a way, the trust is implicit. I haven't seen the latest data, but overall, people do trust LLMs more for now than they trust, let's say, Google results. People have learned that Google results can be manipulated. They overall feel that although they don't trust LLMs explicitly, they do trust them somewhat more. And at the same time, LLMs are very picky at particular brands who they are recommending. So because it's not really the same. So Google just provides links and it's for you to choose. LLMs provide suggestions. So it is more, they have a higher responsibility to suggest something that people are actually going to be satisfied with. That's why brand narrative is becoming increasingly important. It includes such things as is the brand or store legit? What do reviews actually say? People do check delivery returns and warranties, and they also check if there are any complaints or red flags. And you can get really interesting feedback because I did recently an audit for one very cool company. They have a very cool store, but LLMs characterize their store experience as intimidating. So again, overall, they were recommended, but we could see like if I would, for example, do a research about the store, if I would want to go there or not, and I saw that LLM was characterizing the store as intimidating, then I might be more hesitant to visit them. Of course, so there is also a big difference between being mentioned, being described, and being recommended. So this is something that I already alluded to a bit in the beginning. But this is quite important terminology for people to understand, especially when they are tracking, when they are trying to understand more about how LLMs work and how they interact with your brand. If you are being mentioned, which is the main thing that most AI tracking tools track, it just means that your brand name appears. There is really not much explanation and no reason to choose it. So in essence, LLM just says, hey, so here's this brand, or it might even appear without context. Quite often, so you can be described, which means that your brand is mentioned and it's associated with additional sentence, which describes overall your brand in quite a neutral way. But what we are trying to aim for, ideally, is being recommended, which means that your brand is not only mentioned, it's not only described, but it's semantically positively characterized in a way how to motivate people to pick you out of, let's say, 5 choices. And this can be quite important. So in older times, we could link it to similar as we used to use meta titles and meta descriptions in SEO to entice people when they are in Google search. And in a similar way, recommendations work when you are being mentioned. If you're going to not be described in as good of a light as your competitors, people might still click on your competitors. We still need to ensure that you're not only mentioned in AI search, but people actually choose your brand over competitors, because in most cases, there are going to be more brands than one that are going to be recommended or outlined in any given query. Now we go to the section of how to act. So this is one thing that a lot of, I would say most companies actually get wrong because they come to us and they usually say, okay, we are thinking about doing AI search optimization. So they haven't really checked what is their visibility. They don't really, most companies can't really even name what kind of prompts they might be interested, which in a way is fine. But it really does mistake the overall way how the approach to AI search optimization should be carried out based on our opinion. We do believe that any decent sized company should first try to understand how your customers use AI. Most companies I know, at least of decent size, they have customer personas where they try to segment their customers. They try to understand not really how they look, but how they behave, what are their habits, etc. But based on my experience, I haven't really seen any company that would have defined how their customers might be interacting with AI or LLMs. And this is something that can be quite, well, I wouldn't say it's super easy to find it out, but it is something that companies can find out based on their existing methodology just by expanding the customer personas. For any executive interested in AI search optimization, I do believe that the first stage is overall to first understand how your customers might be using LLMs or AI search. So first of all, which segments use AI at all? Kind of understanding, usually because most companies, so you might have some segments of customers who could be heavy LLM users, but there might be some segments who don't use LLMs at all. So kind of using that within the segmentation. And then I would say more importantly, what they use it for. As we outlined, so there can be multiple uses for LLMs, and this is not only for your customer personas, but this also kind of depends on business. So, for example, if you have omni-channel retail, which means that you have physical stores and online stores, then an important factor as far as AI search visibility and AI search optimization might be what LLMs think about your physical stores, because people might be searching. Let's say I'm in Atlanta and I'm interested to shop X, Y, and Z, and then I ask LLM to recommend me a store, and they might recommend me a store, or I might want to find additional information. So it can be quite important that let's say they direct not only to your website, but that they recommend your store. If somebody is asking reviews about your store, that the reviews are positive. So overall, we do recommend everybody to first try to understand how your customer uses AI, to what extent, and in what particular spheres. So we have also outlined a couple of use cases in B2C retail where we have seen that customers use AI when deciding. So these kind of repeat a bit as before in terms of use cases. Of course, there is product and purchase. People use LLMs to do product searches, to find either a particular product they want to buy or a place to buy a product they have already seen. So this applies both if you have your own products, or if you are a retailer who sells other existing brands, then you kind of more need to focus on to being the best place to buy the particular product. People do also quite actively use LLMs for reviews and trust. So when they have found a particular product, it's just one prompt away to figure out what people say about this product. From our experience, people do quite often, I wouldn't say in most cases, but quite often they do want to see reviews for a particular product, especially if it does not take them too much effort. And this is also something that we don't really see companies do, where you can just, if you have your own products, you can just add that product in ChatGPT or any other LLM. You can ask for reviews or, hey, what do you think about this product? And you might be surprised by the actual results and where LLMs take information. And of course, they do also review the shop or brand reviews when they are comparing where to shop. At the same time, so this is a bit lower down the scale, but people still do use LLMs for risk and reassurance. They are going to check shipping and delivery. They are going to check returns and refunds. They're going to check warranty and payments. I again want to reemphasize that LLMs are quite sticky technology. Once you get used to them, you get used to using them on a daily basis, people do ask them all kinds of questions. So I'm for example, I'm not even using, so I'm using ChatGPT a lot, but I'm not using search function. Not using voice function. So there is still some friction. So I might not be using it as intensely as other people, but I know people who use the voice function, and then they are going to ask literally anything to double check with ChatGPT or Gemini. You can rest assured that all of these questions that people might have about your brand, if you have sizable enough digital presence, people are gonna ask, and it's at least worthwhile for you to check how the situation is looking at the moment. And that brings us to step 2, pick the AI moments that actually matter. Because this, again, is something that we do see within our audits and when talking to our clients, that not every AI use case matters for every brand. You do need to understand, as said before, you need to understand how your customers do use AI. And which are the gaps. So you need to understand where you are performing good. So, for example, if you see that you have fantastic reviews, but at the same time you don't appear in best articles, then you would understand that is the place that on which you need to focus. So, or you see gaps, for example. We do see quite a lot of customers where people are complaining, let's say, about delivery policy or poor customer service or things like that. So overall, based on what users actually use LLMs for versus your gaps, you should try to understand which are the main actions within AI search optimization that do actually matter. And then, of course, you should audit how AI presents your brand today. So this is something that we do quite often. This is also something that we overall can help with. So you can feel free to reach out to us and we can offer you complimentary audit. But overall, you can do audit also on yourself. And audit should look at factors such as if you appear at all. So getting a baseline of your overall visibility, then understanding how you're framed, highly important which competitors are surfaced instead of you in places where you are not mentioned and where trust breaks down. So this is kind of the last one is kind of more related to your own brand related terms. So understanding where might be gaps or where LLM can say that, hey, so I would recommend this brand, but they have this particular issue and so on. So this is not a keyword ranking. It's not really a tracking report, and it's not also not a one-time check. So overall, it's very useful to use tracking tools. So AI tracking tools, there are quite a lot of AEO tools that promise you that they can optimize your AI visibility. I must say most of them they really can't deliver what they promise, because in a similar way, SEO has been around for, I would say, 25, maybe I would say pushing 30 years, and there still isn't a single tool that could optimize your SEO overall. So I would say you can't really rely on AI search optimization tools for optimization, but what you can rely them for is AI visibility. So getting all of this data and then seeing how it moves month over month. But if you don't want to use any tools, so you can either use tools or you can actually do it manually as easy as this. So try to find your product categories or buying questions that would be the most important for you. So this is also the way how we usually start our own audits with our clients. We try to understand together what are the main search terms on which you would want to be visible. So the difficulty here is that we often don't really see the search volume similar as in search engine optimization. So for search engine optimization, it can be relatively easy. You usually look, okay, which are the main search terms that people actually use, and then you try to optimize your website for those ones. In AI search, there currently is no way to know how many people are searching for a particular term. And there highly likely won't be for quite some time, just based on the fact that people search quite long tail queries. So also tools such as Google Search Console or Ahrefs, they are unable to track long tail queries in Google. Approximately 50% of all queries, of all traffic that goes through Google still is invisible. And in LLMs, it's quite worse because people ask even more complex questions, and quite often your response is going to depend on your previous prompt. So it's usually a chain of text exchanges, and what you wrote before is going to influence the output later on. So based just on these criteria, it is very, very difficult to get proper tracking. But you should still understand on which particular terms it might be most important for you to rank on. You can still use organic search trends. For example, see which are the keywords or topics that people search most in Google, and then just extrapolate that these are most likely the same terms that people are going to be searching more in AI search. Although the best a very effective, like it's very hard to get very effective data out of there. Then you turn them into natural prompts. So you turn these terms into ways how people might actually search for the products in a natural way, and then you check them across major AI tools. And then you review how you are being recommended, described, do you appear, you don't appear, and who else appears. And that is kind of a way how you can get your own benchmark without needing external help or specific AI tracking tools. Once you have a benchmark, once you have understood how your customers interact with LLMs, what are the gaps, what is the current state, you don't really just do AEO. So this is another thing that we come across quite often within our work, is that people just expect that there is kind of a uniform way how to do AEO. We do see, for example, that's kind of going back to statistics, but there are multiple ways how LLMs can select information. So they can select information from your own website. They can use third-party listicles, such as, for example, somebody wrote an article of best shoe brands 2026, or they can use Reddit as a source, Wikipedia, etc. So quite often people don't try to optimize for AI search without understanding where LLMs take information from. And then if you, let's say, if in your particular niche, LLMs just use third-party information. So let's stick back to this shoe brands. So let's say you have a shoe company and shoe sports brand, and you want to get higher visibility in AI search. But you just work on your own website. So you do everything that is humanly possible to optimize your own website, but you get nowhere because LLMs prefer information from third-party sources. They completely ignore what your website is doing. So that's why understanding the strategy, understanding what to actually do is extremely important before doing any work. And then we usually, at least within our audit, so we try to understand, okay, these are the basic structures that LLMs use to serve information in this particular niche, and then we try to model our strategies to impact these particular prompts. And a bit of a caveat there is that different LLMs use different systems for serving of information. So the big difference, I would say, is between Gemini and ChatGPT. The easiest way how to explain the difference is that Gemini mostly uses the information that it knows, and ChatGPT is more likely to search. Because Google also does not want people to leave Google search. So they are in kind of this interesting position where they still want to position Gemini as the place to go, but at the same time, they don't want everybody to move from Google search to Gemini because it's really hard for them they don't really monetize Gemini at the moment, and Google search is still their main revenue generating channel. So they are in kind of a pickle. But at the same time, ChatGPT, it does use search. And when I mean search, it uses Bing API search to pull results from the Bing. They sometimes are going to serve a bit different results. And from my experience, I can say that also when it comes to optimizing for, it's much easier to get results fast from ChatGPT optimization than it is for Gemini optimization. And that kind of leads us to the next phase, which is what increases the chance of being recommended. So overall, we can outline three main buckets of things that can be done on your website and overall about your brand that are going to generally increase your chances of being recommended and shown in a positive light. The main and the big one is authority and visibility beyond your site. Again, it really does depend on industry. There are some industries where maybe it's not really as important for you to be mentioned in authoritative websites, but in others are. Another industry on which we have reviewed is perfumes. So, for example, if you want to rank, or if you want to be visible on any kind of perfume recommendations within AI search, it doesn't really matter what's on your website. What matters is if you are included in Vogue articles, in Forbes articles, in these kind of high publications, which have these lists of best perfumes for 2026, best perfumes for women, etc. So you do need to have the credible mentions there if you do want to be included. At the same time, there are industries where it's not really that important. For example, real estate is a good one because in real estate, LLMs need to find what's currently available. So let's say if you want to search for, I want to buy a 2-bedroom apartment in Atlanta, for LLMs, it does not matter that 2 months ago, somebody was selling an apartment in Atlanta. They need to have up-to-date information of what is currently available. So in those kind of situations, they are more likely I would say all LLMs are more likely to use a search and look for real-time data. In those kind of situations, it's more important for you to be ranking in top 10 positions in search, as opposed to have visibility beyond your site, which kind of gets us to the point two, which is clear, structured information. So if you are within this sphere where LLMs use a lot of search functions, your website overall needs to be more appealing to them than any competitor website. Because what ChatGPT, for example, does, you do a prompt and it does a search, but it does search a bit differently than humans do. So it retrieves, let's say, usually the top 10, top 15 results on a particular keyword, and then it reviews which one of these results most closely matches what the user was searching for. So it does. So you don't really need to be ranking number 1 or even number 2. You could be ranking number 10, but if you have better optimized content and overall better optimized website, you're more likely to be recommended than the one who is ranking number 1. And of course, as mentioned before, reviews and real-world evidence are highly important because LLMs, they recommend, they just don't serve information. So they want to ensure that whatever they recommend is of good quality. And even if everything else is good for your brand, if you have poor reviews, LLMs can just avoid mentioning your brand. Yeah, and here we have two examples of recommendations in action. The first one is about best place to buy sports shoes online in United States. And as you can see, overall, we do have quite a lot of results. We do have 9 different results. And if you look closely, I guess, so recommendations. So Foot Locker, I guess, makes sense. Dick's Sporting Goods also makes sense. But some of these might seem a bit surprising to people in the United States because these potentially are not the biggest retailers there are. And you can also see maybe that the descriptions can be quite different. And here you can see, so these are overall recommendations, but they are quite neutral. And here what LLMs tell about your brand can be quite important because so there is high chance that somebody is not just going to click on Zappos, but they are actually going to read through the different descriptions about different brands and click on the one that most resonate with them. So for example, if they need specialty shoes, they might go to Roadrunner Sports. And in the other one, there is a prompt which is asking about specific store if LLM would recommend using that store. So maybe for people in the United States, if they read through all of the description, they might even guess which store it is. But in this particular case, the store overall has very bad, comparatively quite bad online reviews. So ChatGPT usually likes to be quite diplomatic. So it's not really going to say that something is 100% bad. But here you can see that, for example, if this was your store and one of your customers read this kind of information, you can think on your own, would you want to visit that store, or would you rather go to alternatives? As you can see that there it immediately shows at the bottom different alternatives to the store in question. And then when we go to the first one, so why these recommendations happened for the first prompt. So these particular brands were recommended because they have strong repeated mentions across trusted sources. So this is kind of the statistical part of LLMs, which is foundational structure, which doesn't really change between different models. So they are usually when I look for buy sports shoes online, so they are quite often, they are going to see and try to understand which shop or which entity is most statistically often associated with these particular terms online. So kind of the more often your brand is associated with term buy sports shoes online or best sports shoes, the higher the likelihood that you're going to be included. And then, of course, you need to have clear positioning. So these ones had clear positioning. As you could see, LLMs, they usually like to provide a selection of different options. And then, so some of them, they have wide selection, easy returns, fast shipping, or maybe they have niche specialty, which also LLMs do recommend. There is also consistent positive review team throughout all of these brands and low perceived purchase risk. So overall, LLMs have confidence in the product range, clear policies and expectations, and widely validated, and these are familiar, widely validated retailers. So they didn't really recommend any super niche ones which would have zero reviews. And then in the other one, so when I was asking, would you recommend shopping at a particular store? Why ChatGPT was rather cautious? So there was highly inconsistent customer reviews. As I said, the Trustpilot score was quite low for this particular company. And Trustpilot is actually kind of a big pain point for all companies, because from the nature of it, people are more likely to leave a negative review than a positive review. So usually if people are satisfied with your service, they are just going to go home and enjoy the purchase. But if they are unhappy with the purchase, they are more likely to go to Trustpilot and complain. So quite often the reviews, if not properly managed, do tend to skew negative. But at this particular case, so there were quite frequent complaints about online orders and returns. So the online experience was quite poor. And there were repeated risk-related signals, which were flagged. So overall, based on all of the information available online, LLMs were rather hesitant to recommend this particular store. And then another thing I did want to briefly mention is ChatGPT ads. So now, I think over the last 2 weeks, there has been a lot of buzz that ChatGPTs are finally starting to think about implementing ads for real this time. And I've seen a lot of marketeers be extremely excited about this. But I do believe that if you are considering ChatGPT ads, you should first try to see how it overall looks from optics and what is your current state as far as AI recommendations and AI visibility is concerned. Because based on the information that is available currently, any ads are going to be most likely at the bottom of the recommendation, because they can't really, if you start adding ads within the product recommendations, so the overall prompt output, that just completely corrupts the whole idea of ChatGPT or other LLMs. The trust just disappears. So highly likely, well, we don't know, maybe in the future that's going to happen, but at least for now, any ads in LLMs are going to be at the bottom. And then imagine if somebody is asking for which is the best shoe brand or which is the best place to buy shoes, and you get 8 organic results, and then yours is the one at the bottom which is paid, but you did not appear in those 8 top results. So there might be some people who might still click on that one, but at the same time, people will potentially understand, as I said, so people do have quite high trust in LLM output at the moment, well, at least higher than for organic search. So they might be more skeptical about your brand appearing at the bottom for a particular prompt if they were asking, let's say, for the best, if you were not included in the best list. So that's just something to think about for the people who are considering using ChatGPT ads. And another thing that is quite complicated from our side is tracking of AI impact. Most of our clients and also leads and people for whom we do audits. So one of the things that they always like to understand is what's going to be the return on investment and how much additional revenue they are going to be able to generate from their investment in AI search optimization, which is completely understandable, especially as marketers. If you are a CMO or anybody within the decision-making chain, it's very important for you to justify any kind of investment. But the issue is that as far as AI search optimization, so I did show that based on our best research available, AI search optimization can increase revenue between 8 to 25%. But going much deeper than that for us is very complicated because there is a lot of things that we don't see. So, for example, your brand can be just mentioned without a link to your website. At the same time, your brand might be mentioned as a part of a third-party source, so people might come through affiliate traffic, and then of course there are people who are going to directly go to your website, but it's usually approximately 30% of all discoveries in LLMs. Now, at the same time, as mentioned previously, people don't use LLMs just to find your product, but they also use it to validate their purchasing decision, same as they do use reviews, same as they use Reddit and any other tools. So overall, you would expect that overall, with having well-optimized website, with overall good sentiment in ChatGPT and other LLMs, your overall conversion rate should be higher as well. But that again is something that is quite hard at the moment to measure properly. So how to move forward without perfect data? So you don't need full attribution to act sensibly. What can you track? What can you do is track where and how your brand appears in AI answers. And monitor changes in framing. So this is something that we do also with our proprietary tool AnswerRank. Do try to understand you can also try to understand what is your visibility, how your brand is being mentioned, described, and recommended, and overall how things are looking in there. And of course, as mentioned before, so a practical starting point always is AI visibility audit. Mentioned before visibility audit, do try to understand how your customers might be interacting with LLMs. But after that, we would recommend to proceed with AI visibility audit and roadmap aligned to your business needs, because for most companies, the LLM usage differs. And if there are just 4 takeaways from this particular webinar we would like you to have, is that AI search adoption is real and irreversible. So there are a lot of discussions. Are LLMs are gonna result in artificial general intelligence? There is a lot of skepticism about that, but it does not really change the fact that LLMs are sticky innovation that is much more convenient than Google search. So at least as far as search and people's overall interaction with the internet, we do believe that that is gonna change. Being recommended matters more than being visible. So a lot of people have this hang up on just having visibility, but it's much more important to be recommended, because quite often you can just be also mentioned in a negative light. And this is about trust and brand narrative, not just product. So again, this is another thing that a lot of people get really stuck on, that they care only about the visibility, but not how their brand is described within AI, within LLMs. And for a lot of companies, that might be even more important. I would say here it really comes to, well, for B2C retail, maybe less, but if you're a big B2B manufacturer, for example, where you have average order value in the hundreds of thousands, if you have negative sentiment in AI, it can really damage quite a lot in terms of revenue. And then we would like to highlight that there is no clear way to act. You do need to understand adoption, focus on what matters, and audit and execute. Yes. And then we did have 2 questions we did want to address specifically. And I think there is also another question in the chat. The first one was, so what AI models are looking for when they suggest brands or products? This again is something that is, so I do hope that partially the first one is addressed, but this is very niche specific. As I said, they are usually looking for a good sentiment, a good reviews, your inclusion in third-party reputable sources, well-optimized websites which are semantically optimized for API retrieval. But here, as I said, so you don't really always need to optimize all of those things. You just need to identify which ones are the important ones for your particular business. And the other question case to position a brand within LLMs. Again, here it does differ on your particular niche. And I can say that sometimes AI search optimization can be ridiculously simple. So one example that we were running, we wanted to position a particular company as best in their particular niche. So what we did is we created an article on the same website, which said that, which kind of was a list of 10 best companies in this particular niche. We put our company as the number one in that article. 2 weeks later, both ChatGPT and Gemini were highlighting this company as number one. It can be quite ridiculously simple, and sometimes it can be ridiculously difficult. Again, I guess kind of the annoying part from the other side is that it's always depends on the context. So that's why we also encourage anybody who might be interested to reach out to us, so we can take a look at your industry, take a look at your niche, and provide you curated advice, because that can be one of the most dangerous things currently in AI search optimization, following generic advice, because not all advice is going to be not all advice is going to apply to all companies. Two more questions. So what tools can you recommend? So overall, I could shamelessly plug our own tool, which is called answerrank.ai, which is for AI visibility tracking. But at the same time, there are it does not really do anything unique per se, because most of these AI tracking tools or AI tools in general are going to be doing the same thing. They're going to try to see what is your visibility on particular prompts, what sources are used, etc. So they are great for statistical benchmarking, but as far as actually making a difference in your visibility, they're fortunately or unfortunately, it's just a situation that there are no tools. We do need to rely on human input to drive meaningful changes. How do you make sure brands are shortlisted for specific user profiles or topics? So that is actually a good question. If you want to target specific user profiles, then as far as LLM, so it's going to really depend. I would say the best answer I can give to that one, focusing on specific user profiles, is that different users are more likely to use specific prompt base. So because LLMs, if you're a registered user, they might understand you a bit, and they might give you particular recommendations. But what I've seen, they usually give quite basic recommendations. And here we do need to remember that people usually are very descriptive at the things that they are looking for when they go to ChatGPT or Gemini. So those are going to be quite long questions. So kind of if you have particular user segment you would like to target, you do need to try to understand how this particular user segment might be interacting with LLMs, what kind of phrasing they might use, what kind of language they might use, and then you can adapt your on-page content to directly match what they might be asking for. And kind of the key that we see is that the closer you match your on-page content with what users are searching for, the higher the likelihood that you are going to be recommended. We do see this is actually quite interesting thing from AI search perspective as well, is that statistically we see that LLMs prefer niche brands over big retail, big stores. So kind of if you have a very big, let's say in US, you have a countrywide big company, and then you have a small shop that just operates in California. And if you're somebody from California asking a recommendation, there is a higher likelihood that ChatGPT is going to recommend that provider in California or that shop in California, as opposed to the global brand. Context and phrasing on your own website can also be extremely important. And wow, actually quite precisely on time. So thank you for attending. As mentioned before, there is going to be, you can access the recording of the previous webinar as well, where we talked more about the execution aspect of AI search optimization. And as said before, if you would like to learn more, we would be happy to offer a consultation and a complimentary audit. I do hope you learned something new today, and thank you very much for attending.